G'day campers and welcome to another Thursday Night Live. Thank you for campers and welcome to another Thursday Night Live. There we go. I had to hear myself twice.
That's the double bass.
Oh, yeah. How good's that? I've been doing this for a little bit now and I still get it wrong. It's fantastic. Just in case anyone else is nervous, I've mucked it up from the start. And because it's live, I can't go again. So, g'day campers. How are you? Welcome to another Thursday Night Live at the Campfire. Tonight we have with us Kylie Hutchinson, just wave, death doula, who helps people prepare for the end of life. We've got Sharon, Chemello, Auntie Shaz,
hey.
Who's a teacher and a life coach, amongst many other things, which we'll get into a little bit later. And we've got Russel, Reeves, a counsellor who's had an amazing amount of experience training counsellors for their Cert 4. So on tonight's panel, we've got some absolute guns, and I'm really appreciative of you joining us today. Thank you, guys.
Well, welcome.
All right, so I'm going to get straight into it tonight, and we'll because the question was thrown out this week, and the question was, how do I feel less guilty about spending too much time with either family or business? If anybody would like to put their hand up and take that on, I would be very grateful. It looks like Sharon's in.
Oh, does it?
Yep, we all saw that. Yeah.
Volunteer, please step forward. Look, isn't guilt such a difficult thing that we all go through? I was feeling guilty this morning because the dog wanted to go for a walk and I had things to do, and he's whining and he's going around in circles, and I thought of this topic and I thought, oh my goodness, now I'm guilty about the dog as well. But I think it comes back to that what they call the life balance. But I think too, what we need to do to help people is to remind them about that. Use your airline mask first. Or you can't give from an empty cup. So it's really important for us to fill our cup or to use our mask first before we help others. And if we don't practice that self-care, often we're no good to anybody. So that's the way I reduce my guilt. I need to work on my business to be a better mum and a better partner. I need to spend time with my family from time to time. And that means maybe the business has to wait for a little bit. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one because, when you're trying to put food on the table, you're trying to keep the family happy, especially at the moment, where do you spend your time? There's a lot of people having to be teachers. A lot of people are, doing things very differently. So where do you spend the time? Russell, I'd love to hear some advice from you on this one, if that's okay.
Oh, advice. I don't like giving advice. I like talking about it. First off, the guilt that someone might feel probably depends on the benchmark that they have for their life. What is it that they're feeling guilty about? We can get engrossed in our business and our activities and be a little less on family. It's not been my experience. I haven't had that time. I've been lucky enough to be able to share both ways. And now, particularly at my time of life, I can spend all my time doing it. One of the things that I saw over the years is a thing that they called PK. They were pastors' kids. And in the ministry situation, ministers get involved in their work and they neglect their family. And now they think that they're doing a great job because they're ministering. Now, the same could go with people that are involved in their business and believe that they're setting up their business so that their family can have whatever it might need or mean. particularly if you've got teenage kids that want this and want that, they want the best. And fortunately, again, I didn't really have a lot of that with my kids growing up. I lived in a different era. My son was 54 this week, so you know, so my time is sort of now spent with grandkids. My youngest grandchild is 20, and now I've got great grandchildren. So I've had the opportunity to be able to share my time with them. So my guilt has never been there. However, I have had clients that have been this way, and usually they think that they're doing the best for their family, and they just get lost in what they're doing. How to get out of it? Don't do it.
Yeah, okay. Because what I heard just then from you, Russell, was the fact that, you know, in your experience, you didn't really come across it. So for you personally, so
not for myself, not for me personally, no.
No, because but you knew your direction. You focused strongly on your direction, from what I'm understanding.
Well, it was really the work that I was involved in. Prior to being a counsellor, I was a contractor, and I was a lawn mowing contractor, and I had contracts like Williamtown, Abdalif base, and so I worked 6 months of the year, so I didn't have to worry about it, you know, and so it was good for me then, and in my latter part as a counsellor, well, my kids had grown up. I didn't, you know, it was my wife and myself, and she used to come with me. I used to go to Sydney to do work, and she would come with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you noticed now? Like,
So I've been fortunate.
Yeah, no, well, you have, but it's also a different generation now, and coming from your generation through to now, that there is so many wants and needs, and you gotta haves. Like, I sort of feel like that may not have been a part of your life that it is there now.
Yeah, well, maybe because of what my life's like now, that I don't have all those things. I have had and have lost bad. But yes, there is a problem now that people are stuck in this life that we're in now. That there's so many things that they need. Houses are very expensive, so it takes a long time to save up deposits for houses. Motor vehicles are expensive, and whatever you buy is really more expensive than when I was growing up. Yes, that's relative too.
Cool, Kylie. Thank you.
I haven't met.
There's a comment from Janelle. Is it your guilt or is it guilt from around you? And I found that really interesting. Thank you, Janelle. Yeah, is it, whose guilt is that? Is that, you know, are you feeling guilty because somebody else is telling you should feel guilty, or because you're working really hard and your friends are out with your, you know, and they've gone down camping or something and you can't go, and, you know, where's that guilt coming from? And really identifying that. And the first thing, to be honest, the first thing when you said this, you know, how do I stop feeling guilty? And my first thought was just stop. Like, why are you feeling guilty for this? You know, if and I honestly don't know who said it to me over the years. Probably someone like Alan or somebody else has said, kids remember how you made them feel, not what you gave them.
Yeah.
And if you look back at your life, each and every one of us, if you look back at your life and remember, and they say, remember a time that something happened when you're a kid, and it's how you feel. And very rarely are those things like, you know, it might be like, oh my God, I got my first bike at Christmas. There might be that. But, you know, when your dad gets home from work and you know, you share, like my dad used to call me out to the shed in the backyard, and he'd say, oh, come out here and help me. And I'd be like, oh. And I'd get out there and help him, and he would tell me a dirty joke. It'd be like, your mother won't get this, and don't tell your mother, but and tell me these dirty jokes. And I just always remember that Dad trusted me with the dirty jokes, Terrible, but I loved it. I loved that Dad trusted me with them, and that was funny. And I'll always remember that, And my dad worked hard, and I can remember, but he had holidays, and Hank came with us, and I think kids remember how you made them feel. And if you're working really hard to provide for them and you're not spending time with them, then they're going to remember that you worked really hard and they had stuff, but you didn't help them with things. So I don't know. I've been trying to get this work-life balance thing right for most of my life, and I've got a teenager, so 15 years of definitely not getting it right. But I just, he tells me he loves me, so I must be doing something right. I don't even give him that much pocket money for it.
Sorry, Russell?
I was just going to say, with teenagers today, again, they're living in a different time to even you ladies are living in. And so it's very, very hard, very, very difficult with, giving them or leading them in what they do, because there's so many distractions. The kids around them are so distracted. And we've always had mates around that distract us, but not to the extent that we have today, because we're living in this electronic world of all this magic stuff that happens on games and so forth, that the kids get absorbed in it, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I'm renowned for not allowing my son to be on any gaming, and it's about him being present with whatever he's doing. And I think the number one thing to ensure that you don't feel guilty is be present.
Yeah.
And at any given time you're spending time with somebody, if you have that presence of being present and actually give them your attention, that's going to make them feel better, which in turn will make you feel less guilty.
Even if you can have those little moments, like you're heading out the door and you've got to rush somewhere, but you just go, okay, all right, I'll take a moment and I'll dance to this song, or I will actually really look at your thing, or I will help you find this Lego bit. Like, just, even if it's just a few minutes, just be, really present with what they do. Be where you're at, And it's hard at the moment balancing that, because people are working from home and they're trying to work whilst teaching, being a homeschool teacher, as well as do their own job and function, and that's another level.
Well, we're having the exact same trouble now. Marcel is working full time. I've got Oscar. I'm trying to, recreate a new platform for myself to build my business, and I've been feeling stuck in the aspect of where's my time? Where's my time? And I was lucky enough a couple of weeks ago, Russell actually called me up. Geez, you're burning the candle at both ends there, big fella. Are you all right? Make sure you slow down. And I'm forever grateful for that, because that's. And then I sat down with Russell and had a conversation for a good 45 minutes about life, which I was present in, and then I didn't feel guilty about doing all the things that I've been trying to do lately, because I pride myself on being present with people. Sharon.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was reading the question again, and thinking, if I were with my teenagers who've grown up now, I would be sitting them down and saying, having a family meeting about this exact topic. Sometimes when parents ask me, a question like this, I say, well, ask the kids. Yeah. Oh, I don't want to open a can of worms. And I say, well, if you do, you could learn a lot. And they might tell you, no, Mum, you're doing what you've got to do, and I'm fine, Or it might be the reverse, and then you can talk to them about, well, what can we do to make this better, So I'd be encouraging people to talk it out, thrash it out and see what comes up.
You, Kylie?
You never know what they'll come out with. They come out with some Interesting. But if you don't ask them for their opinion then and validate that, how can you ask them to come and trust you with something that's really big later on?
Yeah.
You know,
I'm massive on that, and it's about the trust you build with people. About part of that being present, but that trust and absolute honesty at that point. And if you request somebody, for argument's sake, with Oscar and I, there's nothing off the table. He has permission to ask me anything he likes. The only thing he's got that he has to do in life is learn. Everything else is negotiable. So therefore, I can't ask something of him he won't give. Can't ask something of him. Geez, I'm struggling today, aren't I? Kind of watching them. But it's just about that. Sorry, Russell, help me out here.
Well, because you're talking about children, I was just going to share with you something I taught my counselling students. And because one of the things as a counsellor, you never, and this was what I tell them, you never, ever tell your client what to do.
Yeah.
You always ask questions. And I gave them this example of parenting and children. So your child will come to you and say, Mum, Dad, can I do this? And you'll say, no. And they'll say, why? Because I said so. But why? Because I said so. But why? Because I'm your parent. So this dialogue will go on and on. So the thing is that we need to learn what the coinage is and say, well, okay, what benefit will come of this that you're wanting to do? How will you achieve that? When is this possible? And usually they get sick of asking and just say, right, okay, forget it. But kids are persistent. But so this guilt, how do I feel less guilty about spending too much time? It comes back to the point that depends on our benchmark.
Yeah.
How much time do we spend in life to make, in this instance, fame or money, as opposed to being with a family, whether it be your wife or your children? So the guilt will come about by what your benchmark is. Because I've had clients that couldn't care less. You know, their life was work. And if you talk to Alan about personalities, and that was one of my things, is that I did personality profiling on a different way to Alan. That's how we got involved. So communications is the thing that I really like to get involved in, and how to communicate and the barriers that we might set up. And so how we do this is honesty and openness, and communication is definitely the key. Absolutely, 100%. You know, and one of the problems as an older person that I see is that our community is so small now. We've got a world community. And so somebody in another country sneezes or gets coronavirus, we know about it, you know, straight away. You know, we know how much the dollar is worth. What's it matter? But we know that, and so you know, our guilt is about our benchmark and how we see things, and whether we think this is important or that's important or that's not important. But for me, family is absolutely important.
Yeah, I just listening to you then, like, I don't listen to the TV anymore. I try not to listen to the radio because input determines your output. I'm very clear on my values, and if I work too hard at times, and I do, I have to go back to my values to see where I'm pushing through, and setting those boundaries and actually having clear direction on that. I think that's the key to pretty much all of your guilt, because if you're in line with your values and in line with your opportunities in life.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden, the guilt's not there as much, and you can always refer to it if you feel like something's getting out of whack. So I'm going to go back to Russell a little bit on this, just because of your experience in life. With media having such a big impact these days, social media, all the different apps and everything going on, there seems to, in my eyes, and I haven't had the experience you have, but it seems to be there's a lot more guilt and pressure put on us through fear-based advertising, in my perspective.
Oh, absolutely. This is a discussion I had with my son just yesterday. One of the problems that we have is that this guilt base, and depending on how you think about the current situations, there is a lot of guilt base. Whether you put the app on your phone for what they're asking you to do, or whether you wear a mask, or whether you keep your distance, there's a lot of guilt involved, and they're talking about it going on. So this is what happens with guilt. But again, with this particular question, there's a lot of people that are not spending their time at work. Yeah. Their business is almost non-existent. How do I feel guilty about spending too much at either family or business? Well, people are not spending time in business, and I hear comments about people enjoying family. Yeah. I went with my wife into town 2 days ago. I went up past Bar Beach, drove up past Beach, and there were so many cars there, and people are out enjoying themselves. I guess they're getting rid of their guilt.
Well, that's another challenge that's going to happen when all the kids are back at school and we're all going back to our normal life, is there's going to be a whole new level of guilt put on us, because we're all enjoying our families. The feedback I'm getting from all my communities, all the people I'm working with, is we're all enjoying spending time with our families. So what's going to happen when we go back to work? There's going to be a whole new level of guilt, because we've just built up all these beautiful, wonderful relationships. Now we're going to go back to the grind. Sharon.
Can I just read something that was posted this week? It was a letter from the universal teacher to the parents, and it was talking about the homeschooling. And I thought this fit the discussion nicely. It says, dear parents, don't stress about schoolwork in September. I will get your children back on track. I'm a teacher, and that's my superpower. What I can't fix is social emotional trauma that prevents the brain from learning. So right now, I just need you to share your calm, your strength, and your laughter with your children. No kids are ahead. No kids are behind. Your children are exactly where they need to be. And I thought that was lovely. With love, all the teachers on planet Earth. Because I've noticed in my group so much stress about what the kids are learning, aren't learning, how are they going to catch up? You know, I don't know how to do long division. Can you help me? You know, it's just, and I've just been saying to them all the way through, you know, just do what you can, ask help when you need to, and know that it will all come out in the wash. You know, it's only going to be a few months and the kids will be fine.
And it is literally every child on the planet is in the same boat. It's not like you pulled your kid out and you're trying to deal and every other kid is getting it different. They're all the same. They are all trying to do this. They're all trying to cope. And they learn that, you know, they'll learn how you're handling it.
Well, that's the biggest thing that they're going to take from this is, and that's what I'm trying to share with parents, you know, how we respond to this challenge or this challenging situation is something that we'll all learn from and grow from. So, you know, if we're running around like a stressed chook, the kids are feeling that. If we're trying to take that breath, take that step back and say to them, everything's going to be fine, let's have another look, you know, We can contact Mrs. So-and-so or whatever we need to do. Teach that resilience and that calm. Yeah.
That'll go with them. And again, that's how they feel. How they feel rather than what you're spending
That's
time
an
with.
important part in life, isn't it? Like, and I think that's something that we're starting to get right these days. We're starting to listen to each other a little bit more and actually own our emotions and sit in our emotions to say, you know what, I'm feeling like this at the minute. It's okay to feel like this. I can do something about it because I know I'm feeling it. So feeling into your emotions is a big thing. So I noticed you're nodding pretty heavily on that, Sharon, so I'm going to throw over to you to get into that one.
The emotions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, we often push emotions down, don't we? And a lot of that comes from our history, you know, the war. Don't mention the war. I mean, probably Russell's better to talk about this, but you know, we push things down. And one of my coaching friends, Andrew Pierce, who coaches in anxiety, he uses a tennis ball in a fish bowl. And I've actually bought a fish bowl and a tennis ball to use with my teenagers who are bottling up feelings and not sitting with them and feeling them and not expressing them. So we talk about, you know, trying to push that tennis ball down, but it always surfaces, you know, it will keep surfacing. So, you know, if you can, let's talk about it, you know, let's express our feelings and let's get used to doing that on a regular basis. And that's helping everybody's mental health now, you know. Even our footballers are coming out and expressing that they do have mental health issues. So, and I think that's a stage that we need to go through to help the collective, you know, to make it okay to not be okay.
Yeah. Russell, you got something to pop on that?
It was just a question popped up there a moment ago by Rose, and she was asking about. She said a couple of other things, but one that she's talked about was advertising, and she was wondering about whether the advertising, it could be some, but I think it's pretty blatant on the advertising, and yeah, it's no secret what they're trying to do and control at times with their advertising. It's pretty out there. Yeah. So I think Rose, yes, it could be some subliminal. That was the thing back in my early days. They had subliminal music, and it was something that my son and I were doing. We used to read tapes and that, and listen to messages backwards, and there definitely was messages there, but whether you heard it going forward or not, I don't know. There's certainly things pop up into messages that my brain, and that's what the trouble with kids, because as they're younger, they're more Alan said yes and always will. That's what advertising is. For the younger ones, there's the colours and the excitement and the expressions, just get them. But whether that adds to guilt and of family or business is another thing.
No, look, we always start with the question and end up diversifying. Geez, I'm doing well today, aren't I? Diversifying into other areas, because at the end of the day, it's all amalgamates into one place. Because guilt through advertising is great fear that you don't have it. So therefore, you know, you're feeling guilty. I've got to get that. And so it does all encompass each other.
It's the fear of missing out.
But I might say again that, but another aspect to it, again, I'm putting my counselling cap on my training cap. It depends. I tell all my students again that personality and attitude, in my way, personality you're born with, and attitude you develop. You develop from the womb to the. So it depends on how you come into the world, and before you come into the world, whether there's trauma in the household, loud music, arguments, whatever, it affects the baby even in before birth. So that changes as we get older, and so our guilt can be, again, what I said before about benchmarking. And so depending on our culture, and I don't mean ethnic culture, I just mean the culture of our home and our upbringing and our work, and it changes all sorts of things. You know, in my workplace counselling, that was one of the biggest things that I had to deal with, was the culture of a business. You know, the culture of the business was changed by different personalities and different groups that came together. And yeah.
So how important,
Russel.
Russel, how important in your eyes, Russel, is it to really focus on your culture? Russell?
Well, you mean as a family culture? As a family culture?
You got a family culture?
Usually, our family culture is usually built up from our relationship with our wife. We get it from our, before we go in there. Some of us, i.e. me, I had to change the culture of my upbringing to a new family culture. And because mine wasn't so pleasant, so I've made my family culture pleasant. And so we have to look at that, and that's how we are changed by our culture at times, and we need to be very careful of the culture that we have. I could tell you stories about clients that come to me with their cultures and how they were. But I'll tell you once, and I'll stop. One, you let me go, and I just talk. One old gentleman came to me, and he's probably my age, and his issue was that he was a part of a particular church group, and he felt that had influenced his life too much, and it dictated how he lived and how he thought, and so he wanted to change that culture. And so I went through some techniques with him to help him do that. And he asked me would I put it on tape, and I did. And 2 years later, he rang me and asked me his sister used the tape because it helped him. And so you know, culture can have devastating effects and bad effects on people even into their old age.
Kyle?
Yeah, it can. And I see that with what I do, talking to people about dying, that's a massive thing, you know, and the spiritual aspect comes into it. The, you know, even people that were raised Catholic and then haven't gone to church, you know, for 40 years will start to go, you think maybe I should do something. I'm approaching death, you know, maybe I should hedge my bets there. And I don't know. I don't know what happens. You know, no one's ever been able to come back and really say. So it's an interesting. It comes up in every aspect of our life, culture, and you can choose to, you know, change and say, you know, I'm not going to do this. Like Russell had that client that said, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to change this, and you can, and it can be really powerful.
Well, you're probably a great person to ask this to, because people on their deathbeds, regret, guilt, same sort of thing. What advice do you give to people that are really living in that guilt or regret?
You know, I always say nobody ever was on their deathbed and said, I wish I'd spent more time at work. I don't think anyone ever gets there and says that. What do you say to someone with that? It's what happened. You know what I mean? You can't go back now. That's the past. So if you need to say sorry for something or say thank you, or, you know, try and do that now, but you can't hold on to that there's definitely no going back and changing it. Whatever's been has been. You can say sorry and accept your part in what happened, or you cannot. And some people won't.
Yeah.
Some people won't some people just won't say sorry or acknowledge that they did something wrong. Do they say, I wish I'd spent less time at work?
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
But most definitely.
Yeah. It's
But I think that's going to be the big part of this coronavirus is when we actually come out of our isolation and we all go back to work, we're going to really be evaluating, and we will be feeling guilty about not being there with their kids, not doing all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So, and the thing I keep hearing from everybody is we've got to communicate that with our loved ones. We've got to communicate and work through that. One thing I know for certain, and I don't think men in general get enough credit for the effort they're putting into changing the culture of being a man, because we're trying to own our emotions, something that no other generation has really taken on. We've been told we have to talk, and we're trying. We haven't quite got it right yet, but I think that's the key to it. As long as you keep having a crack at it, you can fix an action. You can't fix inaction. Sharon.
Yeah, I agree. And when I work with families, and I call it sorting out their shizzle, but we set up a team, and we give them a team name, and this comes back to the family culture, and the classic scenario, which we're all familiar with, is the teenagers who don't help around the house. So we and don't share feelings. That's the stereotype, but of course, it's also the reality in a lot of households. So we get a team thing happening, and we do a mission statement and a vision board, and we do a list of chores, and what that then does is make classically mum, or sometimes dad, single parent, make them realize that they don't have to do it all. They don't have to go to work and do all the chores as well. So, who's doing the garbage, who's doing the washing, who's, and then suddenly that guilt is reduced because we've set up a culture of being a team and all working together. So, and that seems to work really well. It's a model that I've been familiar with for years, just through reading and studying, but I've sort of, put my own little stamp on it, and so, and sometimes we call it family boot camp, where we come together and we work everything out and we all talk about an issue. It might be, this issue. It might be, should mum and dad or mum or whoever feel guilty about, the time she spends with work, Mum might say, I'm on my computer every night. I just feel like you kids are being left to your own devices. What can we do about it, So,
unless you give the honesty, you're not going to get it back. So you be honest with the kids and tell them how you feel. It's going to give them an opportunity to actually give that back. So, Kylie, you got something to throw on that?
Yeah, it's and I'm on my own with my son, and and we've had that exact situation where I'm doing all the housework and he's playing video games, and I'm losing my mind going, and he said, "You didn't ask me." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "You didn't ask me to take the rubbish out." And I was like, "Good Lord, dude, at 15, can't you see the bin's full when you put something in it, And I remember saying this exact same thing to Scott, and I said, "When do they work that out?" And he goes, "I don't know, I'm 40.
Yeah. That's right.
So I said, "Okay, he's just not going to. I just have to tell him, And you come in and you need to do something and the bin's full. It's just easier. It's easier to just do it yourself. Take it out." And then I did realise I was losing my mind, and I'm screaming at him, and he's like, "I didn't even know you wanted it done."
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so now I'm like, right, these are your jobs. And I tell you, we had success. I got home the other day and I'd been out shopping and I opened and it was empty and he relined it and everything. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So proud moment.
Initiative.
Really take a photo and put it on Facebook. Yeah.
How do you help someone take ownership? Because that's what he did. He took ownership of that.
Ownership, isn't it? Yeah. And I really believe if it's his responsibility, it's his responsibility. So if it's full, I'm going to yell at him. I'm not. I can't tell him he's responsible for it, and then do it myself, and then yell at him because it wasn't done. I'll be like, dude, it's not done. Do it. If you want someone to be responsible for something, they really have to be responsible for it, accountable, and and I can't yell at him and then do it. Like it's insane.
Russel, have you got any clues on this one? How to take ownership and responsibility?
Well, I do a couple of ways of getting your kids to things. Now, with the rubbish bin, you just take it in and you put it under their bed.
Yes.
And so you just keep putting it under their bed. So now I hope my son's not watching this. But I do know that there was occasions when he took the door off his daughter's bedroom.
Ah.
Yeah.
When she wasn't behaving.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
right.
heard that one.
So it does come back to communications and again my training of the counselling students was the how, what, where, when, never the why. In counselling, I always taught never to use the why, because when you say why, they don't accept responsibility because somebody else made me do it.
Yeah.
But you always have to find out what their coinage, and what I mean by that is that what motivates them. It's not just necessarily dollars and cents. It can be their time on computer or special foods that they have and denied not being able to go somewhere. There is some coinage. I mean, this is a problem in this day and age. There are just things that you just can't beat them. It's unfortunate, but it's just a thing that they're taught to think for themselves, and that can in itself be rebellious at times.
Yeah.
Damn independent thinking we taught them.
We can't have that.
Think for yourself. Then they do.
Okay, it's funny. I've got a couple of clients at the minute where they've got some teenage kids, and it's a balancing act of how much do you guide and how much do you trust and pick up the pieces. Because the one thing I always explain to people is, what is the one thing that you want most in life? You want to be trusted. So if you give them the trust to work through the scenario and then be there to pick up the pieces, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah.
So, and Sharon, do you want to extend on that, or do you want me to keep going with that?
Oh, you're on a roll, mate. Keep going.
I'll give you an example. So I had to work with Oscar through our bathroom schedule, and because it was taking too long, it was becoming a real problem. So I sat down and asked him and said, listen, what are the tasks that we need to do? We sat down and wrote down the tasks. We worked out all the bits and pieces that needed to be done. And I said, okay, do you agree that that's what needs to be done? He goes, yeah. I said, well, which order do you want to do it in? He goes, oh, well, I'd probably do it like this. I go, okay, cool. I said, what if, so it was basically get in there, get dressed, get new, turn shower on, all the bits and pieces, clean teeth. I said, okay, so what can we alternate to make it a bit quicker? Because if you get it out of there quicker, it's going to be an advantage to you. He goes, absolutely. So then we put it all together. We went, so the only way we're going to know how this works is if we go and trial it. He goes, absolutely. So I invested in him to give him the power of what needs to be done. And then I spent the time going through it with him and timed it all. But okay, this was great. What if we adjusted this, just this? Cool. Do you agree that this is the right way to do it? Because, you know, you had a lot of input. Yeah, Dad. Oh, this is great. I like it. This is mine. It was his ownership.
Yeah.
So it took away my pain, but it also gave him the trust level that I trust him enough to get that right. I was there to trim the branches and just to keep him growing. So yeah, so that's for me. Trust is the big thing. And if we go back to feeling guilty, there was something I wanted to bring up a little bit earlier that I really want to jump on with you guys, because in life, especially at the moment, we've got Russel sitting here that's got a lot of experience. We've got Kylie's got a lot of experience with people in their end of life. Where Sharon's a teacher with all the kids. You know, we don't always have the answers. Our experiences that we've had up to this point are going to get us to this point. If we're feeling guilty about something, we're not sure how to work it, get external advice. Go and find someone who's been there, done that, research it. In the age of Google and the age of what we can resource now, especially, I don't know about you guys, but my 9-year-old son, I'll give him something to look up and he's just gone back. Thank you very much. I'll find that out because Google knows more than you. But my job now is to get that information, sit down with him and process it, give him the opportunity to put forward how he feels, and then listen to him. So if you're feeling guilty, I think the best thing you can do, if you haven't got the tools, find someone who has. Someone jump in on that, or am I? Kylie?
Yes, find someone who has, and take what you need and flip the rest. I say, you know, you might find a little piece of information here that works for you and your family and your situation, and somebody else and something else that you like. You don't have to just have one guru that has all the answers, and you're not going to find it. You're going to find a little piece that works for you and your situation, and something else that works for you and your situation. It's not we're not cookie cutters, not one size fits all. So
That's
keep trying to find it. Yeah.
Everyone in life's got a different path, so the best thing to do is, you know, as much information as you can, then decipher through it. Russell, your experience with that?
Say that again.
Sorry, your experience with that?
Yeah, I in Kylie's area that I've last week. I have a friend who's at end of life, and he was at home and he needed to be at the hospice. He didn't want to be at the reason why he needed to be at the hospice is that he's donated his body to science. And so what he was doing at home wouldn't have allowed his goal to happen.
Yeah.
And so I talked to him about it, and I asked him the questions, and I asked him what his goals were and what he wanted, even at that stage. And so he decided within the day that that's where he needed to be, and where he is now, and it might be today or tomorrow will be his demise. But which were some nice stories in regard to guilt. He had family that came that he hadn't seen for a while, and so that allowed his issues to be settled. And so we our chances sometimes are limited by the time we've got. Even as young people, it's limited with the time we've got on certain. Can make a decision, and if it's the wrong decision, well, we could have catastrophic outcomes.
Yeah.
So can I'm going to take an assumption. I'm going to take an assumption because I think I heard everybody sort of agree that when you've got clear goals, you feel less guilty about a lot of things because you're able to explain yourself better because you know your path. So I'm going to ask each guest now, when did you find your goals? When did you find what it is you're passionate about in your life. So I'm going to start with you, Sharon, if that's all right.
Sadly, only in the last few years, after my marriage ended. And that was part of the problem. I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. He was very goal driven and I wasn't. And I hadn't had an opportunity to develop my goals or to understand what my own values were. And I've been able to do all of that in the last 5 years and learn so much more about the world and myself and what I stand for. And so now I'm honoring all of that. And I know now when I am spending time honoring those values and those goals that I don't need to feel guilty about, missing time with family or whatever. So, yeah, it's one of those cases of wish I knew then what I know now, but, all in good time.
Yeah, well, so the
Yeah.
guilt you had before you had the goals, how much did that affect your relationship? Being that you didn't know what you wanted, did that bring on a big guilt?
Oh, yeah. I had a lot of mother guilt, as Ita Buttrose calls it. Ita wrote a book in the 80s, I think, called Mother Guilt. Yeah. And I had a lot of that. And, I always felt like I should be doing everything for the kids and not so much for myself. I had to do, I felt like I had to do everything for my partner. I was an absolute martyr, really.
Okay.
Yeah, but not anymore. So,
yeah. So, because that's a really interesting one, especially at this time, right, when people are actually struggling a bit. Relationships are a bit heavy at the minute because we are spending more time. There's a lot more guilt going around.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Do you think if you had clear goals at that point, would have made a big difference to your marriage?
Yeah, I needed a path of personal development. I really did. I had a lot of trauma from childhood. All sorts of stuff that I had never processed. I had done the tennis ball and pushed it all down and nothing to see here. Everything's shiny and happy. Live in the nice house with the hubby and the 2 cars in the driveway and the beautiful children and the cats and the pool, but inside everything was wrong. But I wasn't allowed to pursue personal development, counselling. I wasn't able to do that under his watch. So I did some, but not the stuff that there were certain paths I needed to take and I couldn't take them. But I've taken them now, and now I can help others with the similar paths. Yeah, thank you.
And you're doing a gorgeous job of it.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Kylie. So,
when did I find my goal in life?
Yeah.
I want to know that I've found it. Have I got it? Seems to move. It's like moving goalposts. I'm bit of a crazy free spirit, and I just floated with the wind for a long time, which I really enjoyed. Really quite, not like, oh, I have to get this and have to get this. And I got married at 21, bought a house, got married, moved into it at 21, 22. Still, I'm in my 40s, and still that feeling of choking with all that. Just horrible. I just was drowning in it, and I just thought, I don't like this, staying in one spot. My life mapped out doing this. It just wasn't me. And I think that's what everyone else was doing, and that's what I should be doing. I'm all grown up now, at 22, I should do this. No, I shouldn't. And for me, it's a little bit, I'm happy, like Alan's just said, the more you grow, the more defined it becomes, and it is forever changing. And it is, for me, it's go where the wind blows me. And I don't have it. I mean, I have personal goals, and I, sort of go, in the next 6 months, I'd like to finish this, or 12 months, I'd like to do that. But if it doesn't happen and something else comes along and it's this thing, and that's different. I guess you asked the question of goals, but that's different to like a life passion for me, you know.
Yep.
A goal to me would be, I want to buy my house and pay it off and do this with it. Like that's a goal, but you know, following my passion is a different thing.
Yeah. So I'm just going to unmute Mike. I'm playing with Russell. Russell, this is Russell's first time on. So we're going to give him a bit. Well, I reckon he's doing amazing. I'm really enjoying having him here. He's like, I'm really looking forward to the one-on-one tomorrow. It looks like he's trying to work out how to get in. It's awesome. So what I might do is
talk about him.
Let's talk about Russell. We will actually think. But it's funny, you know, because it's a lot of people talk about goals, a lot of people talk about bits and pieces, and I think it's more about finding your passion. Because when you find your passion, as Kylie just said, and Sharon, it's in your eyes, when you find that passion, the thing you want to do with people and be around, geez, it changes the world. It just changes your world, gives you the direction, you know, and that's the hardest thing to find, passion.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. If I do this, will that be up? Is that backwards? That's what it says on my wrist. It says passion.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I got that after I got divorced in my 20s. I got that. And went, right, follow your own, not somebody else's.
All right, so I'm going to remove Russell from the stream there, and we're going to go, hello, Russell.
Hello.
He's back.
I'm on my mobile. I got my mobile. I found it worked. The sound went just bonkers on my laptop. I don't know what happened. I lost it, and I lost everything.
Oh,
so I don't know where it's coming back there, is it? Yeah, you've got me back there. Oh, no, I lost me again.
I just want to thank you for being consistent.
Lost me on there.
That's what you're back in.
On my phone, I lost it on my laptop.
Oh, you're a technological genius, going from computer to phone. I'm happy with that.
I am 73, so I should be able to do something now.
I'll never forget the first time that I actually did a Facebook Live, and I did it with Andy Bryce, who's another member of the Campfire Project. 3 days and 15 attempts to get our first Facebook Live up and running. I had one guy sitting there just laughing, eating popcorn, and I'm just like, this is definitely entertaining. But you know, how do you build self-trust? You got to keep going forward, don't you? You got to keep working.
Absolutely.
With guilt, you know, like, how do you get past it? Communication. How do you trust yourself to have that communication? How do you trust yourself? There is no wrong communication. As long as you think about it and you're calm, you can say what you need to do. If it's coming from a place of love and you can feel it's honest, then say it. That's the only question I think you need to ask. Is it honest or is it a fear-based emotion? Because if it's fear, don't say it. So, all right, so the screen's a bit muddled up now for me, so I'll get back onto it. We're getting right into the last hour again, and I want to thank everyone for being on the panel, even technical difficulties and everything, and Russell's killing it. So, oh, here you go. Hey, Russell, you can teach.
Oh, cruel.
Oh, yeah. A damn good popcorn too. I think that'd be served.
Ladies, I was in contact with Alan today, and I had to do something, and I've got to do something with Scott tomorrow. And Alan said, "Oh, serve you right. You could have done it with me at home."
It would have been safer with Alan because there wouldn't be as many glitches as one would say. So,
all good.
Well, so because we're getting on to that's, I'm presuming, Serge Vera. Who was the person who was actually sitting there eating popcorn, watching those things. But I'm going to ask everyone, as I always do, for their one little nugget of gold, because I think everybody out there has got different summit. Everybody out there has got a different opportunity. What's the one bit of advice you'd give to anybody that is feeling guilty? And if it's all right, I'd like to start with you, Sharon.
I think I'd go back to what I talked about. creating a team so that there is no one person responsible for everything in the household, in the family. And I feel that reduces the guilt because you work together as a team, you communicate as a team. You know, what needs to be done, how do we tackle it, who can do what, and everybody's got accountability and responsibility. And that I feel reduces guilt because, you know, we are operating as a team. There's not one person who feels like they're trying to do everything and letting everybody down. So yeah, that would be my bit of gold, is to set up a team and team spirit.
Beautiful. Good work. Thank you. Kylie?
Travel gently with yourself and those around you when you do this. This is a change in how you're handling a situation. So, you know, travel gently. Go easy on yourself with it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Russell?
Well, I'll share with the one bit of advice that I do offer to my clients and to friends. There's 3 things that you can do. You can remain the same. You can remain the same with some changes, or you can change.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
One bit of advice I've got for everybody, if anyone's feeling guilty, it's okay to feel guilty.
True.
It means you're feeling. Just make sure you work on it because you deserve it. You're worth working through that guilt. And if you need it, stick your hand up. I think we're all in agreement with that. You know?
Yep.
So, I really want to thank everyone for the panel tonight because guilt's a tough one. Guilt's a tough one. It's a hard one to own, let alone talk about. But with patience, we sat here tonight and we've talked about guilt. We've listened to each other and we're all a little bit better for it. So thank you, Kylie. Thank you, Sharon. And thank you, Russell, for your first ever panel. I really appreciate you popping on.
Thank you.
Babe, if you got any questions at any time, anyone, pop them up, send them through me, personal message, and we will try and answer them. We'll get a team together, sit down, and we'll go through it. So thanks, campers. Take care, and I'll see you next Thursday. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.